The Jedi once numbered in the thousands. What's left are a scattered, frightened lot, mostly beaten and in hiding, or poorly trained children like yourself.
Welcome back, everyone. It's Charlie. This is The Way. Both The Mandalorian and Ahsoka have been setting Grogu and Sabine Wren up as the future Mandalorian Jedi, paying off one of the longest-running Easter eggs in Star Wars history next to the Knights of the Old Republic stuff they've just been doing on Ahsoka, so we'll break it all down. If you're brand new to the channel, I'm doing videos for all the Ahsoka episodes. Be sure to subscribe to get them. We'll start getting teasers for The Mandalorian Season 4 probably by early next year, too. Jon Favreau, Dave Filoni will be doing a full season of that before the big Thrawn movie happens. Generally, all this stuff in this part of the timeline, the Mandalorian episodes, Book of Boba Fett, the Ahsoka episodes, are all meant to cross over. Everything that's happening right now on Ahsoka is taking place right after The Mandalorian Season 3. But during The Mandalorian, they've slowly been showing that Grogu himself has been going through the steps needed to actually become a Mandalorian, a part of their culture.
If he is ever to rise from foundling to apprentice, he must learn.
He's already rising on the path through their ranks. The armorer kind of gave him an exception to actually taking the creed itself. That's typically the main requirement for anyone who wishes to become a Mandalorian. They have to verbally recite the creed, take the oath, but Grogu hasn't shown he's been able to speak basic tongue like Yoda or Yaddle yet. There have been a lot of theories that he can already speak, but the closest he's doing to actual speaking is just in his own native tongue, like he's speaking Yoda's language when he's talking like this.
This is the way.
This is the way.
That was meant to be him mimicking Bo-Katan and Mando saying this is the way, but in Yoda's natural tongue. He's slowly getting his armor pieces like a regular Mandalorian, slowly training in the Force. He's just not pursuing the traditional Jedi path at Luke Skywalker's academy. He's more like Ahsoka in that they're both studying the Force in their own way. The traditional Jedi teachings are just one of many different ways of studying the Force. The Night Sisters are a recent example of another Force tradition that's very, very different in practice and abilities. Now, during the first few episodes of Ahsoka, one of the new changes Dave Filoni just introduced to the canon was saying that during the time jump between the end of the Battle of Lothal in Star Wars Rebels finale and the tag scene at the very end, Sabine had been training in the Force with Ahsoka as master and apprentice. They just clarified that the live-action version of this scene, that time jump during Rebels, was close to about 10 years. Way longer, I think, than we originally thought when they originally aired the Rebels episode. This scene in present day is taking place just after The Mandalorian Season 3. During the first few episodes, David Tennant's Huyang tells Sabine that she's got the lowest aptitude for the Force that he's ever seen.
I have known many Padawans over the centuries, and I can safely say your aptitude for the Force would fall short of them all.
And remember, he's from the Old Republic era, many thousands of years ago, and he's helped pretty much every single Jedi ever build their lightsaber, so you're talking many tens of thousands of Jedi that he's known over the years. What that means is that it seems like her midichlorian count is super low compared to more powerful Jedi like Ahsoka, Anakin Skywalker, Grogu, even Ezra Bridger. They haven't clarified whether or not Huyang met Ezra Bridger. I'm assuming that he did not, but he would probably know about his existence.
I never had the talent, the abilities. Not like Ezra.
In answering the other side of that question, if it wasn't clear, Huyang would also know about Grogu, even though he probably never met him at the Jedi Temple. Because remember, Huyang spent all of his time on the ancient Jedi ship, ferrying younglings back and forth to Ilum, where they would find their Kyber crystals and use them to construct lightsabers. Like, that was basically his function within the Jedi Order for many thousands of years. Grogu never seems like he got to the point in his physical development when his hands were just actually big enough to wrap their fingers around a Yoda-sized lightsaber. Like, even if they gave him a lightsaber, he probably wouldn't be able to hold it like he should be able to. That was the funny thing when Luke Skywalker offered him one of Yoda's former lightsabers. Like, would he actually be able to hold that if he gave it to him? I think the idea is that Luke just intended for Grogu to keep that with his belongings until he grew big enough to actually use it. Now that he's left Luke Skywalker's Jedi Academy and did not take Yoda's lightsaber, that just means that as he grows more powerful and physically grows larger, eventually he'll construct his own new lightsaber, which I think a lot of people wanted. This is also very similar to the path that Ahsoka followed when she left the Jedi Order. She left her old lightsabers, her original lightsabers, behind. Anakin eventually gave them back to her, but she lost them again, left the last one behind to trick the Empire into thinking that she died. Just like Grogu, she went for a while without a lightsaber, then she got her new twin lightsabers when she fought the Inquisitor, the sixth brother here in Tales of the Jedi, defeated him, took his red lightsaber crystals, purified them to their white color, and made her own new twin lightsabers from them. Grogu will probably do something similar where he'll eventually find his own lightsaber crystal, make a new lightsaber, but because he grows so slowly, like if you're just charting the timeline here, that probably won't be till well after the Thrawn movies happen. Probably going to be pretty tiny for a good long while. But basically, he's meant to be the next Mandalorian Jedi since Tar Vizsla over 1,000 years ago, the one that created the Darksaber, became a Jedi Knight before coming back to Mandalore to lead his people. Now, there were many other Force-sensitive Mandalorians in the years after him, but none of them ever trained in the Force or became Jedi Knights. Until you get to Grogu and now Sabine Wren. The only difference between the two of them is that Grogu is way more powerful, and Sabine Wren was born a Mandalorian, and Grogu just became a Mandalorian over time. There have been a ton of questions about how they're handling the Sabine character on Ahsoka, but I think it's pretty clear after the first few episodes. Dave Filoni is just saying that Sabine has always been Force sensitive. They're just really only exploring that in depth now. During the Star Wars Rebels episodes, they kind of brushed over it, I think because they were focusing more on the lore behind the Darksaber, the Mandalorian culture, and what was going on with Ezra Bridger's Force training. But at some point after the Battle of Lothal, just before the events of A New Hope, Sabine would have started formally training in the Force with Ahsoka, becoming her Padawan, and when we use the term Jedi, Ahsoka never really considered herself a Jedi. During those first few Ahsoka episodes, they specifically say that Baylan Skoll, who also does not think of himself as a Jedi, has been training his apprentice, Shin Hati, in the formal Jedi practices, like constructing lightsabers. Her fighting form is more like the traditional Jedi forms Baylan Skoll and Ahsoka would have learned at the Jedi Temple. So it seems like the two of them, Ahsoka and Baylan, are passing on some aspects of the traditional Jedi training, but not all their very strict rules and beliefs. Like most of the stuff that they're borrowing from the traditional Jedi path are the practical aspects like fighting techniques, basic skills. And according to Hu Yang, Sabine isn't a super quick learner like Anakin or Ahsoka or even Grogu or Ezra. He was just trying to tell her that she can totally become a Jedi, but she's just going to have to work way harder than all those other Jedi that came before her. The whole thing with Ezra's lightsaber now belonging to her will probably turn into a huge twist later in the series when they reveal what really happened to Ezra in present day. I know there's tons of theories about that. I've already done a couple videos about some mystery characters like Marok. They wanted to make it clear, though, that the lightsaber ultimately belongs to her now, regardless of what happens to it the next several episodes or what happens with Ezra Bridger. He would have either constructed a new lightsaber for himself, or he doesn't need one anymore, and it will have something to do with the new lore that Dave Filoni is introducing with his other galaxy that they're calling Peridia. The original home of the space whales, the Purgles, if that wasn't clear, they were implying that the space whales originally came from that other galaxy, and that's how they knew how to find it, because it was just part of their pod's normal path they follow through the universe, like aquatic creatures migrate along said paths on a regular basis. There are a bunch of live-action versions of them in the trailers, so it seems like we'll actually run into them in the next few episodes. But the whole point is that Sabine is still a Mandalorian, too, now like Grogu's becoming a Mandalorian. Essentially, they're the future Mandalorian Jedi. Still a little salty that we didn't see Clan Wren in that ending scene for The Mandalorian Season 3, or Sabine Wren didn't show up for that. I think that was mostly a budget thing. But if we're talking about the future of Star Wars here, even though Sabine ages like a normal human, she'll grow old and die before Grogu even reaches his prime. Yoda was about 100 years old when he became a Jedi Master. Grogu is in his early 50s. Right now, just based on the timing for when Star Wars Rebels happened, Sabine seems like she's around her late 20s in present day, so she'd be in her 70s, like wizened old Mandalorian Jedi Master by the time Grogu also reaches full size and becomes a Jedi Master. Now I know everyone's going to ask whether or not the two of them will start their own Jedi Academy together in the distant future because of what happens with Luke Skywalker's Jedi Academy. It probably wouldn't be till after the events of the sequel trilogy, and they did just announce those new Star Wars movies they plan on setting 10 years after the sequel trilogy. That would be when Grogu and Sabine would probably be training a bunch of other students, unless Dave Filoni has some special plans for this other new galaxy. Long term, I think that Star Wars will always try to keep Grogu around, for financial reasons mostly, story reasons too, like he's going to live 900 years. Like there's just so much story to explore with his character. Why would you get rid of him so quickly? But I think the main reason for introducing this other galaxy is because just in general, they're trying to branch outside of the main Star Wars galaxy. Like there's been trapped in this main galaxy for so many years. I think they're trying to broaden the Star Wars universe, like literally the term universe. So Grogu could eventually just wind up traveling to the other galaxy at some point, having a bunch of adventures there for hundreds of years, and he'd still be relatively middle-aged. Practically, Dave Filoni and Jon Favreau have been pretty clear that they don't want to answer those kind of questions right now. Like, we're not going to reveal what happens to Grogu in like 10 or 15 years even. They don't want to explain what happens to him during the events of the sequel trilogy even, because that would kind of give away the plot of what's going to happen to him during the events of the Thrawn movies too. Generally just means that it's wide open for theory crafting for a long time. So let me know in the comments, if Grogu and Sabine are the future of the Mandalorian Jedi, do you think that they'll form a new academy themselves together, or would you just rather see them travel to the new galaxy and have adventures there? I'll post my Ahsoka Episode 3 video as soon as possible after the episode airs tonight. Be sure to enable alerts for my channel so you don't miss that. Click here for that video. I'll update the link as soon as I post it, and click here for all my other Ahsoka episodes. Thank you so much for watching. Everyone stay safe. This is The Way.